AI obviously on topic for people to wanting to get into, but I think right now what we're seeing in terms of market trends is the same sort of race we saw with like the NFT experience, right? Where it's this is new, this is different, this is like ways to maximize efficiencies within a workflow. But what we're seeing things at is sort of like it's almost like watching a toddler learning how to walk.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guests, Andre and Brendan from Radcat Design. And we'll be diving into their story a little bit today, as well as what their company does and some engaging insights, as always, into the technology industry. So please make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Andre, Brendan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, Craig. Nice for having us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Guys, if we can please kick things off, if you would kindly just, the both of you, just introduce yourselves and, maybe just tell us a bit about your background and your story, please.
Sure, I'll kick it off. But basically, we've been in the industry for almost 2 decades now, but Radcat's been around for about 6 years. And we really started off as just overall a general creative studio. So we dabble in a lot of brand identities, move our way into a lot of digital. And so the past 6 years has been us just being cats and voyaging around and finding relationships, making unique friends such as this, and building a network that we can all support each other and create really beautiful things.
And as far as the background of our business, we started out, Andre and I, together working on an inbound marketing company, or within an inbound marketing company. There we found out that doing the same thing month over month, specifically for fitness clients, is a little tiring. And so then we moved into Radcat, which is specifically project-based. There we can go across all different industries. And like he was saying, work from the identity all the way into the digital activation, whether that's websites or AR experiences, VR experiences, whatever it needs to be, we'll find out a way to make it happen. But that's where we're at now, and we're having a lot of fun working with a lot of different people. Like you said, being curious like cats and just going out and finding out who's doing cool stuff. How can we partner with them? How can we make something exciting for a client?
And I'll add that our slogan is see clearly, create fiercely. So people ask us like what it is we do. Honestly, like we want to help our our partners and relationships see clearly the full roadmap ahead, what's possible, and then being able to align the right people in place, or radcats, if you will, so that way we can help them create fiercely and take on those endeavors and yeah, accomplish as we go.
Oh, that's awesome, guys. That sounds so good. But I'm curious. Tell me, how did you guys decided to get into this specific business sector, right? What was it that sparked that initial interest? Why you guys so passionate about it?
Well, my answer is a little different than yours.
I'll go for it. Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, I'm in my 30s now, but I've been doing websites since I was probably, I don't know, around 14 years old. And from then, it was when animation was becoming super popular within the Flash MX 2004 space. And really, honestly, like my goal as a young lad was to more so go after film. I really wanted to captivate people in a movie environment. And for me personally, it was all about that opening scene. If you can open up very strongly in a movie, it keeps the audience engaged the entire way and potentially brings you back to that moment you saw in the very beginning. So taking that same aspect of storytelling and putting it into a website medium was my interest. And so when people are going to a website and they expect it to be very functional, very traditional driven, typical website, for me personally, was all about creating an experience that felt like it was going to cause the goosebumps on the neck and really just like hit them right where they were at least expecting it in terms of an experience. And a website was that container for me at an early age to do it in, because there's a lot of freedom within that kind of container.
Awesome.
Honestly, just a childhood dream for him to be doing this right now.
Yeah,
is really what
yeah.
For me, I started more on the physical side of things, so a lot of working with brand identity, and that came about through the way of illustration. So ever since I was young, I've been drawing, and I love anything tactile, anything that get nerding out on Pantone colors and things like that, stationary types. all those different things. But something that really stood out for me is as corny as it sounds, was the Subway logo. I remember going in there one day, I think I was in high school, and seeing the logo and just wondering, how do you make something that's so perfect like that? I don't know how to do it just in illustration. How do I do that? And so that set me on a whole course to figure out how to use a design program to make something that's really, really dialed in and perfect as I saw it. And then from there, it's just taking that, meeting with people, learning about them, and how do you translate that into a mark that feels representative of not only who they are, but who the company is as a whole, who the audience sees them as. And then combining Andre's powers and his childhood dream with my childhood dream, how do you take something that's a brand identity and expand it as far as it can go, worldwide, global? You got to put it into a digital environment. And so that's where we met together and really taking our skills to the next level in terms of being able to not only represent somebody in a physical form, but also in a digital format, and do something cool that feels unique and really stands out when you're looking at these websites that we're creating.
Oh wow, that's quite profound. Tell me guys, based on you guys' expertise, like you guys mentioned, you've been in this for quite some time, right? What's all the current market trends in your industry, that you're currently aware of? Like, what ways are the wind blowing these days?
Put a glowing orb powered by AI.
Yeah,
AI is like the buzzword, right? Oh my word.
It is. I mean, if we got paid every time we got asked to do an orb, it would be like a whole sandal of orbs.
Set for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But AI obviously has been one of those things that is obviously on topic for people to wanting to get into. But I think right now what we're seeing in terms of market trends is a bit of the same sort of race we saw with like the NFT experience, right? Where this is new, this is different, this is like ways to maximize efficiencies within a workflow. But what we're seeing things at is sort of like, it's almost like watching a toddler learning how to walk, where there's not really a dialed in tool, like set of suite of tools just yet. There's not really a clear streamlined process to use these tools. So you're having this visceral reaction between artists that don't know how to bring it into their world. And then you're looking at on the other side, like a development land where it's more functional based, more efficiency, where they're having a heyday because now they're able to express creativity within their projects, which before they weren't necessary. They required design work, or they required a lot of brainstorming to get to a certain point. So what we're seeing is iteration happening a lot faster. We're seeing a lot of people get ideas out, and which really, in our opinion, AI, that's a lot of that should be used where the term AI assisted is coming in, where it feels like you're using AI tools to be able to sell a clear vision. But at the end of the day, when it comes to delivering on a project for a company or a brand, it's really just being able to use the AI in your favor and touch it as humans to get it to that point and direct it. So, and from what we're seeing, like designers are having to become directors faster, and on the other side, people that are doing it that haven't really dabbled in creative are more so figuring out their own boundaries when it comes to this stuff and how to get it out of that uncanny valley, if you will, of being able to market and sell it and make it relatable to the audience, which in our eyes still needs the artist's vision. We call it rascal vision in the process. But I think right now what you're seeing is a little bit of this sort of growing away and being in silo using tools, but then they'll all come back together once they figure out the boundaries of the tools and what their own skill set allows them to do.
Interesting take. Having said that, I think this might be a good time, if you guys don't mind explaining to us, a bit more in detail what it is specifically what what the company does.
Yeah, so we get asked that a lot, and a lot of it comes down to storytelling. Like for the past 6 years, we've been working on our own IP, and the IP, you actually see the two figures behind us here, a little bit on the shelves. But the idea is, for us, as we've gone through the 6-year journey as Radcat, we've sort of pinned down our values and really what we feel like make up a Radcat DNA, if you will. And so it all comes back to that childhood mindset. It's like, if you're able to make decisions based off of that childlike wonder, where you're not having any external layers tacked on to how you should be running a business or making your own personal decisions, then it's sort of a way of knowing exactly what you need to do next. And so for us as a company, what we're really, really good at, to be honest, is breaking things. We're really good at going into large organizations and just like tearing things apart in a safe way, and then helping the bigger organizations see those potential things they may have like ignored in the past, or maybe it's old ideations brought there from previous employees within the company.
Or it feels uncomfortable to go and break it because it's been established and no one wants to go hurt the established thing. But for us, if we're outside the company, then we can go in there and it's almost like, oh, we didn't know any better. So it's blame it on us if you have to.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Sorry,
heavily,
my bad. I'm a third guy looking in.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's heavily involved in a strategy process. You can call it brand strategy to put a label on it, but it's not quite all of the same touch points that you would typically see in a brand strategy process. Like for us, it's all about the members within the organization that make up the energy and soul of it. So our job really is to get to know the company from inside out, and then being able to see what's deferring from that goal and what's really feeding that goal, and then giving them roadmaps so they can actually go in and get closer to who they are as a brand, who the founder is as a person, who the team is as a pulse. And once we figure that out, we've done the work of building the network to be able to work and direct a team at a small scale, high scale, to be able to deliver that over, a course of time. So it's very strategy and then creation focus. So a lot of our work comes out in a digital format, but to be honest, we have a lot of fun dabbling into copywriting and marketing and that sort of thing as well.
Well, it's very necessary.
Yeah.
We can't put something out there if it doesn't convert, right? Like that's a big, I think, internal conversation that we have is people will hire a marketing company and a design company. But if a design company doesn't know the outcome of what the marketing team needs to happen, then there's a disconnect. And it's really difficult to bridge that gap if you're working with two separate teams. So like we said before, working in an inbound marketing background, we understand how to convert on a website through design and make sure that it's functional, not only looks beautiful and interesting, tells a story, all those things, but how does it actually get the user from point A to point B and meet a KPI from the client's perspective. And so that's something that I think is really interesting about what we do, is combining those abilities and those understandings of those two worlds, those big worlds that kind of feel messy and a little bit hard to understand. I think we do a good job of deciphering that and translating it for the client.
And just for a quick example, we were at earlier this year, we were launching an event for the Global Entertainment Marketing Awards over at the Grammy Museum, and the audience was filled with marketers. And our typical audience isn't being around a bunch of marketers. It's more so creatives, just our own comfort zone. And I'll tell you that the creatives, the designers, the artists, because we've been to both types of conferences and shows and events, is you get a very emotional side of the work, which is the artists and the emotion going into it. And then you get a very analytical side where if you're in a room with a bunch of marketers, the KPI is more so how do you reach more people with one deliverable. So it's like maximizing a deliverable, which could be an AI produced direct mailer, if you will, versus something that feels like a precious moment in one launch. So the very two different sides of the fence and turning in terms of like goals for their own companies. But our job is to sort of marry those two audiences together to bring the art emotion into the logical marketing side of it and have them synchronicity work together where it feels like both of the equation are at stake versus one or the other over toppling the other.
Well said. That's quite profound. Whilst I'm listening to you guys, there's already a lot of, there's value points that I can see in your business. What makes you guys basically cut through the noise, right? And but I would like to hear from you guys. What would you guys say are the most significant value what your business basically brings to the table, or to other businesses?
I would say it's relationship based. Like so much of it is us just meeting with people. And I think a lot of it too is not every client is a perfect client, but when we're able to have a conversation and let them break down the walls, and we'll break down our walls and just talk about what's working in the company, what's not working, where they came from, where they wanted to go. I think we do a great job of listening. And then from there, being able to, based on our industry-wide experience, bring in different things, like from a cancer research company or a meditation coach, or we're talking about a gaming studio. Like we've worked with so many different types of industries that we can bring in insights And then based on what they're telling us, based on what they're valuing, we can pull out and attach it to different industries that maybe seem like a juxtaposition, but in the end is really valuable. And I think that's specifically unique. It's the relationships also. It's the experience that has no bounds, if you want to think about it like that.
And there's often times where we kind of compare it to like wine pairing or something, or like even food pairing. It's sort of like when we're in a relationship, when we're working on a project, it's we don't hold back from bringing in our own personal network into it. And if we're connecting people to one another, like that's number one for us. Like if we if you even look at our site, it's very brief. It's very like this is what we do. You know, if
We
you
just want
can't,
to have a
yeah.
conversation. That's really the goal, is just to talk. We just want to talk and go from there.
Yeah, because it's not about one time I had a boss that said it's not about how many millions you make, it's how many people you help make theirs. And so taking that approach, it's a very selfless journey for us. If we can just help entrepreneurs, startups, big brands overcome their own internal obstacles to get to that inner child quicker, that's where we want to be in play.
Got it. Andre, you mentioned now, entrepreneurs, there's a lot of, let's call it younger generation, or not necessarily young, but guys that's wanting to people that's wanting to enter the market, that's wanting to be that owner of a business, or even sometimes it's leaders that just wants to pivot and just wants to grow,
Yeah.
obviously in their ecosystem or in their company. uh in your opinion, what would you guys say, what type of mindset is needed to be a successful founder of a company?
So
Un
uh
Unoffendable.
yeah. Um,
Well, that's good, man. Yeah.
unoffendable. But I mean, honestly, like so we work with one of the co-founders of Duolingo, and he obviously is in a position where he doesn't need to do anything
That's
for the rest of
good
his
to
life.
do.
He's set.
Yeah.
Uh, but I could tell you the mindset that keeps him busy, that the mindset, and I'm using him as scale because that's probably the largest scale of type of person that anyone would end up working with.
Yeah.
Um, is more so have fun. If you're having fun, that's the mindset to be in. As soon as you stop having fun, you really need to evaluate why. And if it's an effort thing where you need to get someone else involved that needs to do a part of the job that you're not necessarily good at, or you're finding a lot of friction in, then that's your next goal. But the idea is to constantly ride the wave of fun and flow state. And if you can stay in there, that's the golden area.
Think about Bruce Lee, where he says, "Be like water," and
Yeah.
that's what he's talking about. Is what I mean by unoffendable. Is you get to the point where you realize, oh, I'm not the best at this specific task. I should find someone else that can do it and collaborate together. I'm not the best at understanding how the business side works. Okay, we'll find someone else to do that, or share between, like if in this case you're in a partnership, share that, because once you get to the point of letting go of your ego and having humility in that spot, then I think you can grow so much. And even in the case of having something fail, so a project fails or you get let down by a proposal, you be unoffended by the result and just keep going. Because if you get hung up on the things that, like the gap of what could be versus where you're at, you're going to keep beating yourself down and not want to progress into something that feels outside of what you expected. Like you got to just keep going with it, keep rolling, and see what happens along the way, because sometimes there's great surprises and sometimes there's a little
Yeah.
bit painful surprises.
So
Yo,
so
Brendan.
we've actually created an 8-phase methodology that basically goes through and discovers 8 discoveries of a founder and 8 discoveries of a company and slash brand. And
Yeah.
so with that, like part of that is, you talk about mindset from a founder's perspective, is getting to the point where you're able to strip away your entire ego in the process. To what Brendan's saying, admitting that you're not good at this, seeing what your weak points are and using those to your strength, or bringing people in that complement you very, very well, and staying in your lane in the process. Because when you're first starting off, you have to wear multiple hats. Really, that's the time to figure out what types of people you need involved in your organization so you can work at 100%, which is what you really, really love and what are good at. So like the first goal is to divvy out that stuff and to really figure out, okay, what do I want to do within my own organization, and what do I need to do now but won't be forever. And that kind of mindset, feeling like you're going to be evolving through time and you're going to be
Yeah.
using weaknesses as strengths, and you're not going to get in your own way by having your own ego in the process. You're going to be open to feedback. You're going to be open to relationships. That's that Bruce Lee, be like, just flow into it.
I'll say one thing real quick. One of the biggest lessons we've had to learn, especially being designers, is how to decouple, let's say, our 100% design quality from running a business. So if we want to run a business, rather than the business run us, we have to let go of that design oversight to an extent. Let's say we have somebody else work on our projects, our designer that's helping us. If they can get it to 80%, we got to say, all right, 80% is good enough so we can move on and keep growing. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting stuck of saying, oh, it's not good enough yet. Obviously, you have to have standards, but in order to create a business, you got to be able to let go and say, all right, I need to let this thing breathe a little bit, and then, progress however long it takes. Obviously, you wish it to be faster rather than later, but you've got to let the thing grow. Otherwise, you're going to stay where you're at. And so letting your ego out of the way and saying, all right, if the quality dips for a little bit, we just know that the end in sight, the goal that we're going after, is to separate ourselves from needing to be in everyday tasks.
Mm-hmm. And then, to add to that real quick, is it's kind of like the art world. When people look at a body of work, it's the body of work. It's not so much one piece. So, a lot of the times when you're first starting off, you get hung up on the details of that one piece because it's more so your breakthrough moment or that staple piece. When people come to you 5, 6 years later and they look at what you've done, they're going to look at it as a whole. And I mean, even for our own presentation sake, when we do pitches and things like that, like we just include a big range of videos of the sites we've done or the work we've done. And they're seeing it all as in, they're taking it all in. So they get a sense of like, okay, there's a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of individual stories you can jump into, but we're showing them all just because they can see it as a whole. Where when you're in the process, it's really easy to get hung up on that one thing you're doing. When someone comes and looks at it, they're gonna kind of just know you as this one thing, as this like, oh, you got 4 kids, which you're always busy. It's like they're never gonna care about your day-to-day successes. They're just gonna know you as that busy person all the time.
Yeah, tend to be more stereotypical, right? I fully agree with you. Guys, you guys have now mentioned such good points especially for people wanting to not just enter the market, but I think just in business in principle. I think there's a lot of guys that's going to go back on this podcast and they pause and they write down and play and pause and write down. You guys have provided. Yeah, you guys, this was so insightful. Tell me, Brendan, where can the listeners, where can they get hold of you guys?
Yeah, so our website is probably the primary thing, is radcat.design. There's no .com. It is radcat.design, just in case you get lost. And then if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do that as well. It's also at radcat.design. We are slowly putting out content, doing things like this to get our feet wet and to get comfortable. And we're growing just like anything else.
We're a firm believers when everyone else is being loud out there, it's time to put your head down and really focus in on what kind of value you want to add to the global conversation. And so for us, for the past 6 years, we'll say that we've had our heads down, gone and won some awards, worked with a lot of different industries, made some friends, and now we're getting out there.
Excellent. Guys, so I can fully understand why you guys are so successful. The value that you guys bring, I think just the synergy between the both of you, I mean, that's just awesome to see as well. So we'd like to thank you for coming on. I think a lot of people's going to learn a lot out of today, and all the best to you guys and your business, and may it only grow from strength to strength. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.